Frari, and I'm the author of this petition. I work as a teacher and consultant for visually impaired students throughout the state of New Hampshire, USA. Pediatricians and child development specialists use a set of 40 vision development milestones to assess how well a child's eye development is corresponding to the norm. These milestones, with the exception of depth perception, give almost exclusive consideration to our keenest central vision, our foveal vision, and give very little consideration to the development of our visual field. Let's look at an example. In the clinician's office, we might use a device like the pen light to look at visual tracking, being able to have both eyes follow a moving source. We would have the child be a prescribed distance from the light. We would move the light through prescribed motions horizontally, vertically, diagonally. We're looking to guarantee that the child's eyes are both working as a team, staying fixed on the light source, one eye not deviating out of alignment, the child not alternating from one eye to the other. In short, we're looking to get our best judgment that both eyes working as a team will lead to binocular vision, stereopic vision, good depth perception. The milestones measure from about birth to about 7 years of age, and at that time vision as a sensory system is reaching its maturity. But during this 7-year period, from about 3 years on, we're also attempting to use vision in formalized ways for academic learning. And the most pervasive way in which we do this is, of course, the linchpin of academic skills, reading. And the primary delivery mode for reading is print. Print will make some very large, very intense demands on what is, at that point, when we begin to introduce it, still an immature sensory system. When a child is approaching 3 years of age, in the clinical setting, we can begin to measure the child's central vision. We can begin to measure the child's developing 20/20 or 6/6 vision. A milestone that we use to do this is to look at their eye-hand control when copying forms. So here we've got the square, triangle, and circle, and when we ask the child to look at that and make a copy, an exact copy of it, and the child begins to come across, what we're looking at is the precision of their gaze in measuring that angle and how well they can take that eye precision and translate it into the direct control of their hand, so that when they look at their corners, it is the exact copying of those corners that brings the lines back into play. Of course, the same thing with the triangle. You make that corner and you're looking up to reproduce that corner and the next opportunity. It is that exactness from your central vision looking at that that will bring this line down to intersect where it needs to make the closed-in form. We've had a chance to look at the visual milestones where what the child needs to pay attention to is delivered right on the desktop before them. While they might have to make selections, they don't have to deal with a competing visual environment. The attention of focus is right there, either singular or a set of items that they can have immediate contact with. That's not true of a lot of the learning we do as we grow and develop. So let's take a look at an everyday example of childhood learning. Let's take a starting line at a racetrack. So let's take two cars and put those two cars up against. If we have a narrow field, we can use our good vision. We can zoom right in and shift right back and forth, so our keenest vision can work. But if there are more drivers entered the race, if the field is one of more distributed racers, so there's going to be the possibility of more events that are going to compete for our attention, more events distributed that we are going to want to react to, possibly get the visual data to act upon, then we have to, or we can't rely just upon that foveal part of our retina. We have to expand to engaging the rest of our retina, which will respond with lesser acuity, but the different types of information, grosser information on position and shape, and out here on the peripheral, just motion perhaps. But that information is critical to learning and to making informed decisions, to saying, what do I want to zoom in on? As our field of distributed events opens up new possibilities, we make associations quite freely. Perhaps the red car is our favorite. We'll want to zoom in and see what's happening. But if the blue car over here zooms out as a streak, we know that that car might be getting ahead in the race. We might be interested if two vehicles are exactly the same. We might be interested if one is a laggard. We're freely going to make associations between the competing elements in the field, the related elements that we have by their visual characteristics, made into an association with one another. Temple Grandin can give us some good guidance on visual association and visual thinking in this way. She writes, I have no language-based thoughts at all. My thoughts are in pictures. When I recall something from memory, I see only pictures. I used to think everybody thought this way until I started talking to people on how they thought. I learned there is a whole continuum of thinking styles, from totally visual thinkers like myself to totally verbal learners. In 1984, I had the opportunity to work with two colleagues in Philadelphia, Marilyn DeWitt and Helen Simiak. Marilyn was the Director for Literacy in West Philadelphia, and Helen was a remedial reading specialist. Both of these professionals had the opportunity to work with highly skilled adults who held down quite demanding jobs and used their visual acumen to compensate for reading skills in print that they simply didn't have. Helen offers this guidance to us when asked about their students. The type of student that I work with is the remedial student, the student who has not been able to learn with the methods available to him in the public school from the time he started. At present, I'm working with adults who still cannot make the type of associations basic to reading. And Marilyn shared with me one of the biggest barriers to teaching reading, and we do it by phonics and word families for the most part, is that a person will rely on the shape of the word and will not, just will not, submit to recognizing a sound-symbol relationship. Both Helen and Marilyn share with us a very important guidance, and that is that if we have a fully mature visual system that clearly can take in and process information in dynamic ways, it makes no sense to consider vision to be at fault if these same people struggle, or a lack of poor vision, struggle to deal with the sound-symbol relationships of the delivery medium of print. And it's very important that we use their guidance as a stepping stone towards saying, can we better understand and separate out visual processing, visual association, visual functioning from other modes of academic learning? In that manner, we'll help ourselves to not overlap services, not perhaps imprudently spend the limited resources we have when, if the problem is conceptual or emotional, we get the help in that direction and don't work something that already may be quite efficient, quite dynamic, and doing quite well. The petition offers a beginning for separating out visual proficiency from other forms of learning, and the milestone gives an opportunity to look at the general knowledge basis of visual responsiveness and a separation between that and the kind of visual responsiveness that's needed in academic learning. The way in which the milestone that as I've designed it to do this would be a water grid, looking for that opportunity, like with the racetrack example that we did before, where general knowledge at that age range is all that's required. So in this scene here of a pond habitat, the rock island in the pond, the sailboat, the beach, each one of these scenes, the panels, are related to one another by the surface stability of water. So if we put that out there and said, this is the element that you look across, you have the expanded field, you have to zoom out to see the whole, you zoom in to see detail, you must manage your visual field. That's one of the key things that we're striving to get acknowledgement of. We also need a way in this format to, if we're going to use it for separating out high visual efficiency independently, of having very demanding visual data for the oculomotor kind of control that academic tasks like reading impose on a learner. And to do that, we'll take creatures from the habitat. So let's take the panel over here and let's put a bird flying across the water, because that bird flying across the water will give us a chance to look at the bird's feet, the duck's feet in this case, and the discrete kind of information that will open a window towards precise visual data will be footprints. Our duck here can be related by movement to flying across the habitat grid and maybe landing over here on the beach and leaving its footprints on the beach, and there's a trail or a tracking of that motion. But the footprints are important to us because they'll give us a chance to look at that separating out of something like the delivery system of print and general knowledge. The footprints have one key attribute, or display one key attribute of visual data, and that is almost a complete independence in orientation. The footprints can be sideways, they can be downward. It makes no difference. They're immediately recognizable as the duck's footprints. We can use that information on a panel that would go into the grid, where we can require high visual discrimination. We can require the eye saccades of shifting from one visual target to the next and judging sameness and difference that a task like reading requires. But in this panel, we wouldn't impose the restriction of reading, which is reading makes a very high demand on orientation of character. So let's put our panel over here on the grid to give this possibility of reading, and let's look at what I just said about print. We can remove this panel from here, and let's take a look at an example of words from the Dolch word list. So the Dolch word list will encompass most 50 to 75% of kindergarten and first grade subject matter and other subject matter as well. These are from kindergarten and first grade reading words. Here we have 4 words that begin with the letter W. In this example, the letters take their complete identity from their orientation on the line. If you were to rotate the W, it would no longer be a W. If you were to turn it upside down, it might be a misshapen or misformed N. Its identity as the letter W rests solely upon the line of print. Another example to separate out visual data from academic data would be form constancy. Form constancy is one of the items in visual perceptual tests that's seen as being a link in that synergy between high oculomotor visual behavior and improved academic skills. But if we take that idea and look at the words from that same Dolch word list, print mocks that form constancy. If we take a look at the word as and, 2 of the words on that list, and outline their form, they're absolutely identical. If we were to look over here at the 2 bottom words here, at and of, basic glue words in reading, they're exactly the same form, so that form by itself doesn't give any constancy. You recognize a form, it's not a word. Think back of what we read about Helen Semiak and Marilyn DeWitt, when Marilyn made the statement that adult learners, highly visual learners, will cling to the word form and will not make a sound symbol substitution. Thank you for your attention, and please visit the website featured on the screen. Thank you.